Jesus, I have never done such a thing. 1, 2, 3, I hope it's working. Okay, let's go. We were walking down a street in Manchester and it was October. He tried to grab my hand and I pushed him. He asked me why. I told him that in Ukraine, in Turkey, you don't do that. It's not safe. It's not appropriate. He went quiet for a moment and then he asked me something that I truly wasn't ready for. Have you ever mentioned to anyone about me, about us? I told him that I had to lie. Then he said something that I still think about today. If you keep hiding all your experiences, or worse, you lie about them, you diminish the whole point. Until you accept who you truly are, you'll never become your best true self. That was awakening, but to understand why it hit me as much as it did, I'll have to go back to the beginning. I grew up in Ukraine and from the very early on I knew that I was different. Growing up as a gay person in Ukraine wasn't really easy because I think that everybody around knew that there was something different about me. My neighbors, my classmates, everybody would make a little comment. It was quite frustrating because I didn't really have any idea about who I was. But once I figured, I didn't try to expose it, I tried to suppress it. I remember being about 5 years old, I asked my father to bring me to gymnastics, and he said that is not a kind of sport that a man wants to do. So he brought me to boxing instead. I remember while I was there, the classes, I would sneak out, escape the coach, run down in another room. There was a gymnastic class. Always watch them from afar, would never be allowed into the room. And when I was around 10, I somehow convinced my mother to bring me to judo. And I liked judo just because I could do some gymnastics in there. But then it turned out that I had to also wrestle. High school, I tried to fall in love with girls. I took them on dates. It was kind of something that I had to do, and it never felt right. Also in high school, I kissed a boy, but he never actually admitted it. Thought it was somebody else, that he was not himself or something like that. I don't even remember what it was exactly, but it was kind of funny. I kept it just to myself. I never exposed him, and it was kind of like little secrets between us. When I was 19, I moved to Turkey just for work for a couple of months. That was the plan. I kept on staying there for like 6 or 7 years. That was the actually very first exposure to gay culture, yet it was suppressed. It was all hidden. Loving a man was always a big, big secret. You could not hold hands in public. You could not kiss in public. It would always be the biggest secret of your life. Even with your straight friends, you couldn't tell anybody that you were dating anyone just because it was not a normal thing to say. It never felt like I could be truly loved by someone. That was not the kind of thing that I actually imagined for myself, the way I really wanted to live. And then my friends and I, we traveled Greece and we had the best time there. Of course, we went out and I bumped into this guy who was very good looking. And of course, I was stunned. I really liked him so much. We exchanged our Instagram, kept on talking on Instagram. He asked me if I wanted to go out with him again. Yeah, we had like amazing time together. He introduced me to his friends. And the next day he was traveling back to Manchester. We agreed on meeting somewhere around 7 o'clock at his place for breakfast. I set my alarm. I went to bed. So in the morning I woke up. It was already 9 a.m. So I was late. The alarm didn't go off. I don't know, maybe it did, but I didn't hear it. I don't know what to do because I was super excited to see him for the last time. I didn't hear the alarm, as I remember vividly. I stood up, I went to the bathroom, I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta do something about it. I cannot just let it go. Put my shoes on, and I ran. I ran like 3 kilometers. It was kind of romantic, wasn't it? Anyway, once I arrived at his place, I was out of breath, I was shaking, I was super excited, but still a little bit sad because he was leaving. Mind you, I was 23 probably, or 24, something around that age. To a breakfast area, we had a nice breakfast together. Well, I couldn't eat it all, honestly. The only thing that I ate, it was watermelon. Anyway, so we had a nice conversation, and then he asked me something like, would you be willing to travel to Manchester to see me? I don't know how to respond to it. Of course I said yes, I would love to visit you. We kept on talking for a couple of months. When October arrived, I traveled to Manchester and it was beautiful. We went out, he tried to grab my hand and I pushed him away because that was what I knew was what 25 years of living in Ukraine, in Turkey, taught me to do, to protect myself, be smaller, to be invisible. And then he asked me if I ever mentioned about him to anyone, to my roommate, to any friend, and I said that I had to lie. And he said, if you keep your experiences hidden, or worse, you lie about them, you diminish the whole thing. Till you accept who you truly are and stop caring what other people have to say about you, you'll never become your best true self. Didn't really say anything back because I didn't have any words. But the next morning I went back to Istanbul. Maybe months later, I told about him to my friend, and then another one. I told about myself to my mother, came out. It wasn't like a big announcement, music and tears. I just stopped lying. Pride Month for most, it is about flags, parade and celebration, and it's real and really important. I think that we have to do it every single year to support our community. But for me, it's also about something different. It is about a hand that I pushed away on a street in Manchester years ago, and then over the years, learning not to. If you're somewhere where you can't be visible, I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be easy or it gets better overnight. No, it doesn't. But I know what that environment does to you because I experienced it myself. But one thing I'm gonna tell you, the exact same thing that man told me. You diminish the whole thing by keeping it hidden. That's what pride means to me. Thank you for listening to my story. It means really a lot to me. It wasn't easy to make myself visible online, but thank you for listening. Thank you for keeping watching until the end.